Good morning, everyone. I am Ron Ford. We are here on Tuesday, August 15th of 2023, approximately 10 o'clock. We are now ready to start our Kane County Development Committee. Clerk, please call the roll.
Berman,
Berman's here.
Doherty,
Here.
Iqbal, Kenyon,
Here.
Linder,
Linder here.
Davis, Caius,
Guys present.
Williams, Ford,
Board present.
Tepe. You have a quorum?
All right, so remote attendance, we have Michelle, Linder, Mo, and Darty. Any against those being remote?
No objection.
No objection?
No.
We'll move on. Now we have approval of minutes from July 18th of 2023.
Mr. Chair, I would move for the minutes to approve the minutes for whatever that was, July 18th, 2023, but not unanimous consent. I would like to have discussion on this.
Sure. Is there a second?
Yes, Berman.
All right. We have a motion to second. Comments?
In the minutes, I think on page 2 of 7, I think that's what is that. It
5-7.
lists that vote there as a roll call vote, but it doesn't list those that voted on it. So I think that needs to be included. I don't know if it's just a Scribner's error
Right. All right.
or more importantly.
Any other questions or comments? All right. Seeing none, with those being adjusted, can we get a roll call vote?
Berman,
Berman, yes.
Doherty,
Yes.
Iqbal, Kenyon,
Yes.
Linder,
Linder, yes.
Caius,
Guys, yes.
Williams,
Williams, yes.
Ford.
Board, yes.
Okay.
All right, moving right along, our monthly financial. I believe the report's on file. Any questions or comments? All right, seeing none, we're up for public comment. I believe there's one speaker that's speaking off topic. Victor? I don't know if he signed up online or not.
I'm sorry, point of information, was this on topic or off topic?
Off topic.
Off topic, is that at the end of the agenda? This would be on topic?
I think Victor was going to be available for any questions on the subdivision item, so he is on topic.
Okay, all right, thank you. All right, so moving on. I believe everyone else is up here for petition 4612. So we'll have you speak at that time. Going into building and zoning division.
Good morning, Mark Van Kerkhoff,
Good morning.
with the Development Community Services Department. Just real briefly, we continue to be very busy with building permit activity. We are very happy to announce that we have a new building inspector who filled one of our vacant building inspector positions, Ian Bergen, and he's comes with us with some experience, so he's pretty much hit the ground running. We're very grateful for that. I also just want to make a note, next month, I anticipate with other departments bringing to the committee our 2024 budget. And I just want to give you a heads up, this year we will be requesting an additional vehicle in the budget because of our, we filled our positions in the new property code enforcement division. So now we're short a vehicle. So just to give you a heads up on that. And that's all I have for you this morning, unless there's any questions.
Any questions or comments? All right, seeing none, move on. So our zoning petition, we have petition 4612. You're up.
Yes, yep. So this morning you have before you petition 4612, 39W 180 Highland Avenue LLC. This is in County Board Member David Young's District 15, but I will note that Combs Road is the dividing line between Mr. Young's district and Mr. Tepe's district to the east. This is a special use request in the B3 district for warehouse storage and parking, as well as requesting that a covenant be removed, which required the property to be rezoned from B3 business district to F district farming when a previous business vacated the property. So this is a very unusual prior county board action on this property. And in the current request in order to bring relief to that and to propose and allow for redevelopment and use of the property. We've also had a lot of community concerns about this petition. So along with my own comments on the staff presentation, we have staff from our water resources who have already recommended conditions regarding the stormwater and drainage. I especially want to thank Rob Linke for his long-term work with the petitioner on trying to address some of these issues, but also be able to answer some of the questions and concerns that the community has raised. Also, Kurt Nika is joining us this morning with KDOT, who has helped to provide some response and perspective on some of the community concerns regarding traffic. And also Assistant State's Attorney Don O'Brien, who was instrumental in helping us figure out how to deal with this covenant situation. He's also here this morning to help answer any questions that you might have.
All right, before we move on, can we get a motion, a second?
Berman moves approval.
Tice was second.
All right,
Okay.
all right. Go
So a
ahead.
pretty extensive staff report. We have said plenty of folks to help answer questions for the committee. And I know we have quite a few speakers who are here as well. So these are the background slides. This is the on the 2040 land use plan. This area is shown as resource management, which is the most flexible of the future land use categories in the county's 2040 plan. Recognizing that some of these properties have a variety of uses, in this case, some commercial uses. Also, that redevelopment could happen in this land category as a matter of annexation to a municipality, or it could be approved, through the county, which this petition is for. You also see that the land use map recognizes the existing residential subdivisions on the north side of the tracks, and everything in gray has been annexed and developed through the city of Elgin. Now, this is the zoning map. So you can see you've got a real mix here at this intersection of B3, which the current zoning for the subject parcels, B3 with special uses on the east side of Combs Road and the south side of Highland and Coombs. You have some residential uses further to the east, and again, north to the tracks, Wildwood West and Wildwood Valley subdivisions. Immediately across the street of the subject property are existing light industrial with special use zonings. And then further up the street, the industrial zoning, which was subject to a recent special use petition. Everything in the red hatching is in the city of Elgin. There's just a close-up of the zoning map with all the uses. Here's a whiteout aerial showing the subject parcels. You can see some of the existing commercial uses immediately adjacent, but you also get an idea of the broader area trending character of the residential uses north of the tracks, mostly entitled and developed through the county, and south of the tracks, primarily developed through the city of Elgin. And here's just a little bit more of a close-up. I will point out a part of these parcels' histories are related to the east side of Combs Road, which was the original location for Brady Brick and later Illinois Brick. And as I'll try to demonstrate in some history photos, how this site developed and then expanded into the eastern portion of this property and then eventually to the western portion of this property. Here's just another close-up. You can also see the existing commercial uses across the street and the other portions of that corner. And here's another close-up of the site. You'll see later in the, including the petition, the engineering site plan for the proposed use. This clearly shows the existing building and parking lot and building for one of the subject parcels. In the existing detention. Part of the proposal would allow them to construct an additional building in this location, expand the parking, relocate the detention into this portion of the site, And then eventually they would like to do a couple additional building sites over in this portion of the property that was used by the former brick company for basically dumping bricks and material. And then in the middle of the property, which comes up in a lot of the community concerns, is the wetlands. So this is, we're trying to give you a little bit of history of how this area developed. This is a bit unique. 1956 aerial. This is the entirety of the subject parcel. You can see it was farmland and there was an existing farmstead on this site. Immediately across the street was a gravel pit. Actually down in this area just off where there's an existing lake now was also a large gravel mining operation. And you begin to see here the beginnings of what was Brady Brick developing on the east side of the road. Here is in 1963. You can see some of that continuation of those uses. In 1973, you can see the commercial buildings across the street are beginning to be constructed, and Brady Brick is operation is pretty full there. The existing farmstead is still on that corner. Then by 1985, you can see Brady Brick operation has expanded. The farmstead's now gone. They're beginning to use this for storage. The industrial areas of those buildings are pretty much completed. And then you also begin to see the beginnings of the residential subdivision north of the railroad tracks. So just prior to this in 1977 was when the property owners petitioned the county board to rezone this to B3 to allow them to begin to use this as part of the brick operation. And at that time, very unusual, the county board put a stipulation for the zoning that the owners would record a covenant that would require them to rezone the property back to F district farming if they ever ceased using the property for the brick operation. And a copy of that covenant and the rights granted to the county, both for enforcement and for relief of the covenant, are included in the petitioner's packet. By 1995, you can see they're beginning to use more of the eastern portion of the property. And shortly after that, and prior to 2004, Brady Brick built one of the two existing buildings on the site, and you can begin to see the extent of how they use that portion of the property for the brickyard, as well as continued using this eastern portion. And of course, the main portion of their operation was on the east side. Here it is in 2015. This is after the brick operation ceased to exist, and the new owner had purchased the property, began using it for custom color. And then here it is today, the most recent aerial photo. You can see since 95, the existing owner had expanded his business, which is now housing the truck repair business and the detention area, some of the parking uses. The other thing you begin to see on the photo is the other portion of Brady Brick, which was zone B3, had also requested a special use to allow the outdoor storage and help to clean up that property. And now this portion of it's mostly used for RV and camper storage as well. So this is the original submittal by the petitioner. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on it because we have yet a new revised site plan submitted by their engineer. This was the updated site plan that was the subject of the zoning board hearing. And it differs from the original one a little bit in that they did remove one of the proposed buildings from the original petition and replaced it with parking. They introduced a berm and screening along the north side of the proposed building and parking, and had otherwise continued to illustrate the relocated detention. The future proposed building sites and parking sites on the eastern portion of the property. This is an aerial exhibit that was also presented at the zoning board for the petition wanted to demonstrate the location of the berm, but this time superimposed on an aerial that would also show the relationship of the parking and the improvements to the existing railroad right-of-way and railroad tracks, and demonstrate some approximate distances from the railroad right-of-way to some of the residential properties to the north. This is a just received the other day updated site plan. This is in response to some of the concerns brought up at the zoning board hearing and conditions by the recommended by the zoning board, as well as some additional conditions and improvements recommended by members of the community. So in this exhibit, updated exhibit, they continue to show the proposed berm, landscaping and privacy fence to screen the north part of the property from persons immediately to the north. But one of the recommended conditions from the zoning board is that they would continue with evergreen year-round screening along their north property line all the way to Coombs Road. So it would also shield any residences just to the east from their view onto the property. And then also from concerns from persons on the south side of Highland Avenue, proposing privacy fence along the south side of the property immediately adjacent the parking. And then the next exhibit shows additionally proposed privacy fence that would go from the wetlands all the way to the corner as a way to shield these future buildings and parking from the residential lots that exist just on the south side of Highland Avenue in the city of Elgin. And again, showing the screening to be extended all the way along the north property line, which would also shield these future buildings and parking. So KDOT did provide some responses. We have a lot of emails. We've done our best to post all of those on the webpage along with the petition for access to our zoning board, and now use the county board members. And if any that we've missed, we're happy to make sure we get those up prior to the county board meeting. But we have had a lot of them. KDOT's been kind enough to review a lot of those concerns and try to provide some summary feedback on those to give the zoning board and now you, the development committee, some perspective. So I'm going to continue to use the clicker, but I'm going to let Kurt Nyka comment on some of these generalized concerns.
Thanks, Mark. Yeah, so we can just walk through these slides. We reviewed some of the feedback that we heard voiced over the past few weeks about this petition, and particularly the surrounding roadway. So not going to talk a lot about the land use per se, but how the adjacent roadways might operate, how they operate now, and how they might operate with this proposed zoning change. So let's just walk through them. Roads are already congested, especially during construction. To evaluate that, we just went to some IDOT counts that were available that cite the average annual daily traffic. And you can see the numbers there for Highlands and for Coombs Road. We felt that since these volumes were within the typical bounds for two-lane highway facilities, we didn't foresee this site dramatically increasing those numbers. The roads have potholes. Just a quick word about jurisdiction here. Highland Avenue is City of Elgin Street, and we took a look at the pavement along that and thought judged it to be in fair condition. Highland Avenue, Coombs Road is a little bit different story in that there's a clear difference between the parts under the City of Elgin's jurisdiction and this Elgin Township jurisdiction. And you can visually see the surface condition of the asphalt is affected by those jurisdictions. I guess the point was fundamentally, we didn't see a structural issue with Coombs Road. The differences we saw, we attributed to just some difference in maintenance priorities. In light of that, didn't see a fundamental issue with Coombs Road structurally. Number three there, concerned about on-street parking by trucks near the Highland Coombs intersection, especially at night when the intersection is dark. We hadn't heard this discussed with the petitioner previously, and didn't see that as being of interest to the petitioner. I guess, long story short, if that should develop, we felt like there was ways that could be addressed, perhaps with a stipulation to prohibit that from the committee. But if it would develop, I think a city no parking ordinance and signage could deal with that in the unlikely event it would materialize in the future. The intersection is dark. That can be somewhat subjective, but there is a pole mounted street light on the northwest corner of the intersection. The fourth one, Highland Coombs is dangerous. We looked at IDOT's, the Illinois Department of Transportation's 2023 Local Safety Tier Report, which is a good report in that it's an extensive statewide statistical analysis of crashes throughout the state. And it's beneficial because it allows different intersections and those kinds of facilities to be analyzed separately. So comparing apples to apples. So you don't compare a signalized urban Randall intersection with a low volume rural always stop intersection, because those are different things. But it does a statistical analysis that looks at similar locations and looks for outliers. So looks for ones that have higher crashes in their same peer group. But the bottom line is that Highland and Coombs is in that low category, which is the most desirable as far as safety. Maybe we can go to the next one, Mark. Just kind of jumping to number 7 there, concerns about increased truck traffic on Coombs and Highland. KDOT's access control regulations classify Highland as a minor arterial. And it is a former county highway before it was jurisdictionally transferred to the city of Elgin. So our view is that arterials are really intended to move fairly large volumes of traffic, including truck traffic. So those should be expected on a facility like this, and similarly with Coombs Road. Number 8, concerned about Coombs 20 intersection and Coombs Big Timber intersection. Like I mentioned earlier, we looked at the IDOT kind of comprehensive safety report from 2023. And actually the previous one at 2020 for Coombs and 20, but Coombs and Big Timber was kind of a low safety, which is good, which is the most desirable. Coombs and 20 it found itself in the medium category, although it's a signalized channelized intersection with some robust Route 20 volumes. So we just didn't feel like this site would have a large effect on that intersection. So that's the end of what I had put together. Happy to answer any questions now or later.
All right, can you go back to the large map that shows in our packet is page 34? So we have something to look at as we go through this. It shows the whole subdivision with all the streets. Keep going.
That one or further out?
One is more of an aerial, I mean, a map. That would work right there. I noticed that there's only one subdivision that's down the road that actually have access to the subdivision off of this Island Avenue. Like the rest of them are off of side streets? Or is it something different going further west?
Oh, here? I'm sorry.
Or, I know, I think there's one further down. But like, yeah, what is this, that street right there? I forgot.
This is Combs Road south of Highland.
So the two subdivisions, their access is off of that road, not Highland, the way it looks.
That's correct. This subdivision is mainly accessed off of Combs Road. The two county approved subdivisions likewise have access off of Combs Road. There is one residential property just north of the Combs Road Bridge over the tracks that has direct access onto Combs Road.
So at
And
this.
there's some residential driveways to the
So at
left.
this, at this intersection where these two roads meet at, is that a traffic light? Stop signs? Okay,
At Coombs and Highland, it's an always stop.
okay, all right. All right, moving on from there, we're gonna hear from our speakers. I think we have approximately 6 speakers.
Mr. Chairman, would you like me to go through the staff?
Oh, yes, yeah.
recommendations?
I thought you was done. But,
Sorry. So the staff recommended going comments prior to being the zoning hearing. Approval of special use would bring the existing uses into conformance with the King County zoning ordinance. A removal of the covenant would allow for the proposed site plan and uses to be developed. The intensity of the uses and proposed development would be limited by the proposed site plan as part of the special use if it were to be approved. Staff recommended stipulations. We have quite a few stipulations from Water Resources, and they're available to answer any questions. Did want to highlight a number of things from there. One was a stipulation that trucks would need to be parked on asphalt or concrete surface to contain the spread of pollutants. That they would need a wetland delineation. And also a stipulation that given the history of the property, a phase 1 environmental assessment would be required before any permits for water resources, land disturbance or any building permits would be issued, and that the results of the phase 1 may require further assessment depending on what those findings are. With that, and then also that the stormwater management facility and wetlands would be placed in recorded drainage and conservation easements. And as I mentioned, they're here to answer any additional questions on that. Health Department recommended that a new septic system would be required for the new buildings. These are the 6 factors in your zoning ordinance relative to a special use. In terms of the special use will not have these impacts. This was not applicable for the Regional Planning Commission. The Zoning Board of Appeals recommended approval along with the staff recommended stipulations. They also added some additional stipulations. Their recommendation for approval was 5 yes and 2 no's for their recommendation. But they did also recommend these additional stipulations that natural screening be installed along the north end of the property, which I just showed in the amended site plan that the petitioner mentioned. They also recommend a stipulation that any future lighting on the property meet dark sky requirements. Dark sky requirements is a general term for lights on a pole or on a building that are shielded to be downcast so that the the ground plane is illuminated and there's not a point source of light. In addition, after the public hearing, a number of objectors recommended some additional stipulations that we're just presenting to you. These are things that you could additionally add as stipulations if you felt. Number one, that all the buildings and parking areas be screened with berms, evergreen hedges, or solid fencing. This particular community recommended stipulation. Some of that is also reflected on their revised site plan with the additional privacy fences that they're proposing along Highland Avenue. A stipulation that no permeable paving would be allowed. 3, if semi-trailers are not repaired there, that no semi-trailers be allowed to be parked for more than 3 days. And also recommend a stipulation that new build be constructed with masonry exteriors. The petitioner may have some comments on those additional recommended stipulations from the community. And that is it for the staff presentation. If there's any questions of staff, or you could move on to any comments from the petitioner and then the public.
Is there any questions for staff?
I'm sorry, I also wanted to note at the first original zoning board hearing, it was continued because of a number of the community concerns and comments were related to the existing conditions on the property. They continued the first hearing and asked staff to go out to do a site visit, which we did. We did a site visit, and then we did a follow-up visit to inspect some of those conditions. We had a presentation of those site visits that we showed to the zoning board. I also have that ready this morning if the committee wanted to see those.
All right, any questions?
As far as that last, oh, sorry, I thought you were pointing at me. Mr. Kepi.
My questions are. We can't hear you. Microphone.
My questions at this point are primarily about water. So Rob, there is about almost 2 acres of a wetland there, right?
That's correct.
Okay, and this particular property is unincorporated. So they are not attached to any stormwater system or any drainage. They aren't attached to the city of Elgin system in any way, shape, or form. So they have to take care of water on that property. Is that correct?
That's correct. The site drains internally to that depressional wetland feature in the center of the site. So because of that, the site is very sensitive to any change in the amount of stormwater runoff that would occur. So one of the requirements in order to meet the stormwater ordinance is they will have to design the site such that there will be no additional impervious area that will generate more runoff into that area, into that depressional wetland following, or, it'll go into a stormwater treatment first, then into a detention basin, then it will release into that detention base or into the depressional wetland to make sure that there's no change in the water level in that wetland during a severe storm event. They can't add any additional impervious areas. So they have to operate within the boundary of the impervious area that's currently on the site, which includes the impervious areas that you see in the aerial photos along Coombs Road. So as part of the development of this, they would be removing that impervious area to compensate for any new impervious area that they would be building per their site plan.
Okay, so let's assume that this is approved and that happens. How will that be monitored, and what happens if that really does not take care of the situation? If we have some deluge, who knows what's going to happen in that area? How will that be managed, and how will you manage the quality of water in that wetland and in those retention areas?
Right. Well, in terms of the quantity of water, that's taken care of during the engineering design and then the review that we perform on that engineering design. And so the amount of runoff is simply a function of the rainfall, the design rainfall that we are required, or that they're required to design to as laid out in the ordinance, and then how much runoff comes off of those impervious surfaces. So if they're not adding any new impervious surfaces, they won't be adding any new runoff in terms of the quantity. Now, in terms of the quality, That's one of the stipulations that's written into the requirements there at the zoning board. And that is that they do have to meet the water quality components of the stormwater ordinance, i.e. they will have to filter that stormwater that's coming off of their developed, their impervious feature. So the anything coming off the parking lots will have to be filtered, and then it'll discharge into their stormwater detention basin, which we saw in the site plan. And then from there, it's released into the into that existing depressional wetland.
And how is that monitored?
And how is it monitored?
Yeah, how do you know, how do we know that the quality of water going into the wetland is appropriate?
Well, I mean, there is no direct monitoring that occurs by the county for any of the stormwater infrastructure that's built on any development. What we do have is, so as far as these water quality features like the stormwater filter, we have a long-term maintenance. There are long-term maintenance standards that they have to meet. And so as part of that, they'll be required to do the periodic, annual, quarterly, perhaps monthly maintenance on those stormwater filters, and it'll most likely be handled through a third party contractor that will come in, check the filter to make sure that, it's been cleaned quarterly or whatever the requirement is based on the manufacturer's design standard, and then they'll reinstall it and then go from there. But there is no water quality monitoring of the stormwater discharge itself.
And do you or Mark's department get reports on that?
Oh, you could add that as a stipulation to the zoning. One of the advantages of this being a B3 with a special use, if it were to be approved, is that all these stipulations become part of the zoning and are enforceable under the zoning ordinance. So you could add monitoring if you decided not to add monitoring as a stipulation. If there were concern that the stormwater system was not functioning, was designed or being maintained, that could be investigated by the county, and they could be cited with a violation if it's not being maintained per the stipulations. In terms of how they initially get put in place, if the zoning were to be approved, which would give them the potential to move ahead with their plans, they would need both a stormwater ordinance for the stormwater improvements and building permits for the buildings. Those two permit processes work closely together. So certificates of occupancy for the new buildings would not be granted until Water Resources has had a as-built provided to them to make sure that the appropriate drainage were constructed, and that either all the filtering requirements were in place and underway, or a type of bond or security in place, so that those things would also be completed, all as conditions of the any use of the buildings.
Yeah,
So
well, groundwater is and I'll even talk about this later, but groundwater is a key concern of mine, because the people just north and the people just east of that are all on well and septic systems. And if that water system gets contaminated, that's going to drastically affect all of those people. And I have some serious concerns about that. So thanks.
All right, Chris?
Thanks. This is Caius. Yeah, on the resource management map on page 33. Just a question about what it's the 2040 plan, I think, if I got it right. The 2040 plan.
I'm sorry, the question on one of their stipulations.
I just wondered what the 2040 plan had designated for the, or maybe I got the wrong page number there. You just showed it. Page 33.
You're talking about a 2040 plan usage?
Yeah, it had,
It's 33 on our
Just hand it.
packet.
Yeah, this designated as resource management area.
which is defined as,
Resource management area is a broad category, could be a commercial, residential, mixed use. It gives the most amount of flexibility for these areas that are adjacent to municipalities and might be developed by either through the county or through a city annexation. It's an area, we call it resource management because it is an area where how these properties are developed to protect natural resources is important.
So the resource has to do with resources, not like a resource to be developed, a particular,
Correct. Resource as
Industrial.
in
keep it for.
water, soil.
Yeah, so it has a particular sense, in our plan, it has a particular sensitivity, then, is that what? this kind of-
Yes, that's
yeah,
correct.
Just trying to understand.
Sure.
And then the other question I had was on the covenant. I'd like to have more clarification on what the covenant, why we put it in. I know you said it's unusual. Is it, I know we do a 2040 plan to follow a 24 plan, or were our predecessors at that time saying, okay, look, this is very sensitive. We're going to make sure that we take care of this in the future by putting this covenant in there. Are we obligated to follow that, or are we, is it a suggestion? I guess that's why we have our
Well,
state
I'll
attorney here.
I'll let Mr. O'Brien speak to
How are we
the legal
obligated?
aspects of, since this was done in 1977, we can only speculate why the zoning board at that time used a recorded covenant as a mechanism to put a limitation on a rezoning action. Typically, once a property is rezoned, is a map amendment, that map amendment is permanent unless changed by the county board. And the covenant seems to suggest that, in that the covenant says that the owners would initiate a rezoning from the B3 back to F1 if they ever stopped using the property. I've never come across that as a method to do that. But some of the mechanisms the county board uses now is like our interim special use, where we would give a 5-year term for a land use, and then that would sunset unless they had it extended. That's a more appropriate way to now that the county uses to do that. So in this case, the covenant is recorded. It's in the petition packet. It does stipulate that the county board can also remove the covenant, which would allow the B3 and the proposed special uses to continue, and in this case, even be expanded. And I'll let Mr. O'Brien comment or answer a question in terms of the legal process.
You have a microphone there?
I would agree with what Mr. Van Kerkhoff has had to say. This is an unusual covenant. I have, in examining property titles before, I have not seen anything like this. We can only speculate why this was put in there. It appears that the board back in 1976 was giving the owners a benefit there, but they were probably concerned that if they went out of the brick making business, that they wanted some kind of a mechanism for this property to go back to farming. As Mr. Van Kerkhoff said, the property states that if the brick business was discontinued, the owners shall petition the Kane County Zoning Board of Appeals for rezoning back to F farming. I want to point out, though, that the reason that we want to have this covenant released is that it contains another sentence that says nothing contained herein shall be construed to prohibit the zoning board from releasing said real estate from the provisions thereof. Thus, we gave an opinion to Water Resources and to the Development Department that the owner should file a petition to have this covenant released. This would wipe the slate clean, and it would remove this 1976 covenant as an issue for any future use of the property. As the petitioner has done, they have included this in the petition that they have to have a special use done for the other parcel of the property. So we believe that based on the the covenant itself, that the board here has the power to release this covenant. And that given the use of the property presently and what it's going to be used for is contained in the petition, that it ought to be released.
And I will note in looking at the historic photos, when shortly after this rezoning action and covenant was done, they were primarily using using the farmstead. As you see in earlier photos, the wetlands didn't really exist at the time. The whole property was being farmed and there was an existing farmstead. So that may have been their well-intentioned thought that they would, if they ever stopped using the farmstead portion for the brick operation, that it would just go back to farming. Practically since then, the wetland developed, you can see here by 1985. And then further in after by 2004, the brick business under that B3 zoning also expanded and made those improvements on that portion of the property. So what we have left today is not necessarily a site that's suitable for farming any longer.
All right, any other questions from the
Just-
committee?
Do you think that would be, excuse this Caius again, just to follow up, was there tile in there, you think? Is that what Mr. Linky?
Yep.
That broke down?
Yeah, I can answer that. The petitioner actually contracted with Huddleston McBride Land Drainage Company. You guys are all familiar with Tom Huddleston. He's the preeminent drain tile installer and investigator here in these parts, and he was unable to find a drain tile either going to the north out towards along the railroad right away or to the south, which was surprising. We thought they would find something, and that's why we told them to go with the best. And yeah, they did not locate anything.
All right, any other questions from the board? All right, seeing none, we'll move forward with the with our speakers. And we have Jason Krabby. He might be on, he's online, I believe.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, again, my name is Jason Krabby. I'm the Elgin Township Highway Commissioner. Thank you for allowing me to speak on Zoom today. I had a procedure done yesterday that wouldn't allow me to be in person. I just have a couple concerns to add that's already actually been talked to a lot today. I want to start off, my concern is the additional large truck traffic that would be coming to Coombs Road. Particularly the intersection at Highland and Coombs. It's not really acceptable to large truck traffic. Not only that, Coombs Road along itself has multiple blown driveways, hills, and curves. That brings a potential hazard to residents coming out of their homes. I know they had talked about using strictly Highland Avenue, but we all know how that gets changed down the road. Secondly, I am concerned about the effects that this would have on the wetland property. Some of the direct impacts to wetlands are filling, grading, removal of vegetation, building constructions, changes of water levels and drainage. Not only this is going to affect the wetlands, but is also going to be affecting natural runoff. I know Water Resources have talked a little bit about that, but I definitely would like to see detailed plans for that. Lastly, I know they've had issues with the current property, just being maintenance done with the current property. Is there going to be things put in place that would maintain and make sure that this property is being maintained and not just becoming another dumping ground as Brady Brick used it in the past? Those are just concerns that I have moving forward. But I thank you for your time and allowing me to speak today. And thank you for consideration on this.
All right, thank you. Then we're gonna move on with Margaret Avapado. Good morning.
Oh, not really.
Oh, there we go. How's that?
Yes.
Well, my name is Margaret Alvampado, and I live at 39W031 Cheyenne Court in Elgin. I grew up in Elgin. My elderly folks still live on the east side of Elgin. They moved there in the 60s. I am directly behind 39W 390 Highland Avenue, right behind it, where they are going to put an access road from their business back through my backyard. The area of land that is proposing is primarily residential. The business address is exactly 500 yards from the entrance to Highland Woods subdivision with over 400 homes. Many home builders are advertising and currently building multiple new homes in Highland Woods. Country Trails Elementary School in Highland Woods is 2 miles away from the proposed business where my children attend. This school has 675 students, with a significant number of those students living in Highland Woods subdivision. My daughter is a single mother of 2. She purchased the home in 2023, working as a travel nurse during COVID. She used most of her savings to purchase her dream home. She wasn't considering Elgin until she saw how peaceful and quiet Wild West subdivision and surrounding area is. Her property value will decline severely with a semi-business in our backyard. Myself, my family, my neighbors are all begging the board to put the residents first and deny the special use permit and removal of the covenant. Otherwise, it's going to be absolutely devastating to our livelihoods. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. We have Carl Kabuke. Help us. You want to,
He's representing the
But-
petitioner, so if you want to hear from the residents first, then
Let's
let
do that.
him
Let's do that.
wrap up.
okay. Oh, and then other neighbor is Paul.
Good morning, Paul Amescamp, 13N 470 Chisholm Trail, not too far away. Take a deep breath in. That was good. Very good. Thank you. My concern is more about what the property is going to be used for. I think there's misintent. I think I want to start by what I think your job is here. And that is to zone properties for the future development, not for one particular person. This is housing. Its future development is housing. It is not industrial. This is not a repair shop. This is a trucking company. Couple things. First of all, the owner of the property, Mr. Stanchu, he has 3 other businesses that he runs out of his home. 2 of them are trucking companies. Top Safety, I don't know what that is. Meepo Expedition and Ragnar Expedition are trucking companies. These are listed at his home address and he owns this property. The address down the road, 39W 696, the petitioner moved trucks off that property. There is equipment there from Custom Inc. There's machines that were used for printing are on that property. I'm not sure the relationship between the properties, but why did he move trucks off a property that's not part of this now? What is the relationship here? Why were those trucks parked on a farm down the road? That's also farming. It's not zoned industrial at all. It's a farm. Running out of that home, 3 businesses, there's 18 Wheel Transportation is running their business out of that address. There's Pearl Taxi, a taxi company out of that address, and Pressa Canario Trucking. So now we have the owner's address has got 2 trucking companies running out of it. We've got a property down the road which had trucks parked on it from Prime Team or Team Prime that they moved before the last zoning board. What's going on here? This is a trucking company. I don't know any truck repair place that says they do extensive repair, in which our petitioner has said many times, we do extensive repair. We do not move many vehicles in and out of this facility. If that's the case, why do they need an excess of 40 parking spots for extensive truck repair? Extensive truck repair is a 3-month repair. You ever take your car in for repair and they say it's extensive, it's there for a month? Well, how about a full-blown semi in an accident? He says there's 3 to 5 vehicles a day moving there. 40 parking spots? Something's not right. The use that they are putting for this zoning is not what this property is going to be used for. We need to do some research. The improvements. So the relationship between the petitioner and the owner. If the owner doesn't own this trucking company or isn't running his trucking company or other businesses out of there, is there a real lease between Prime Trucking? And if so, for how long? Who's going to put in concrete to house 30 trucks, solid surface, driveways, berms to prevent the sight of semis, 13'6" tall, fences? What kind of fence? Residential neighborhoods have covenants that do not allow fences. But what are we going to do? We're going to put a covenant in place or a condition into place so he can put up a fence in a residential neighborhood to hide trucks, a 13'6" tall fence. What are we doing in this neighborhood? We should be giving people the ability to move out, to turn this back or turn it over to residential, as opposed to future zoning for more business. It's not where it needs to be. I'd like to see a business plan for somebody that can put all the money in to run 3 trucking bays with 5 to 7 people that's going to pay for this property. Where's the feasibility study? It doesn't exist. There's smoke and mirrors. I can't build a storage building on my property and I will get red tagged. A small storage building. These people have been allowed to run this business for years. Store trucks on farm property. Have businesses run out of their homes. He stated at the last meeting that sometimes they sleep there. That's not what businesses are for either. This is a zoning issue. He's got a complete disregard for zoning laws and businesses. To my knowledge, there were no permits on file. I don't know where to maybe to find them. There's no permits on file that I can find for any improvements to that property. The purposes of, let me see if I'm missing anything here. County enforcement. I'm in agreement. Water. My well is 17 feet deep. I live in the neighborhood next door, and I know it's 17 feet deep because I had my well replaced last year. And a 20-foot piece of pipe when it, I had to cut it off. County enforcement, filtered runoff, underground storage. Is that what we're doing? Underground storage?
That's
I'm
your
sorry.
time. I apologize.
Underground storage? Are we doing underground storage? Because that's the only way you can filter this water out of there. You can't run it into an overground or a pond.
All right, I'm sorry, but that's your time.
Yeah, and hope he's prepared to get evicted because the residents and the taxpayers, if he doesn't follow any of these conditions, the residents are going to have a problem. You guys, you have the ability to stop this.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Next, we have Selena in Torino.
Good morning. My name is Selena Rabinka in Torino, and I moved
Pull
here.
the mic closer.
So Mike, yes.
There you go.
Thanks for having me have the opportunity to speak about the petition 4612. I live in the Highland Woods area and moved there about 2.5 years ago. This was my first home. And needless to say, I find it very disturbing that we only have a few roads. There are only 2 lanes each going east and west. We have 20 that's always backed up. Lord and behold, if there's an accident there, there's nowhere to go. You go down Coombs to go to Highland Avenue. In that 2.5 years, due to the exponential growth that is happening in Highland Woods, all the neighborhoods, all these new houses going up, there's nowhere to go. These are our main roads. We have Coombs, We have 20 in Highland Avenue and possibly going all the way down to Big Timber Road. Those are our only options. When they built the bridge, the traffic was unbearable just going down Highland Woods to Highland Avenue. It was always blocked up. You have all of these major vehicles, all these trucks, semi trucks, you have concrete trucks going back and forth constantly. There are no sidewalks to go on to. You can't ride your bike. I personally feel that it's an accident waiting to happen. You're right at that corner. That's our only option to get out. And I believe that schematic that you have on board there, I believe that Highland Wood area has expanded all the way out. I don't think that that's an accurate depiction as to what it is currently. Those houses are being built left and right. We have no roads, or should, as they say in Back in the Future, there's no roads to go onto and my car doesn't fly. And I feel that it's also dangerous for kids trying to walk just down Coombs Road. There are no sidewalks. You have traffic going 45 miles an hour. You now have that intersection. And since I moved in, I have seen the deterioration on Highland Avenue. It has gone down many crevices. There are holes, there's potholes. You have to try to avoid them, to go around them. I did do a little bit of research, trying to get more acquainted with, the issues on board. And during my investigation, apparently there was a zoning issue, where is it? That occurred, that they wanted to do a truck terminal. And the residents were successfully lucky enough that it was declined. And now they want to put in this semi-truck parking. There's nowhere to go. You're right on that corner. There is nowhere to go. It's going to be blocked off. You're looking for the kids. You've got the school buses going through. And like I said, that depiction is not correct. I don't know how old that picture is. It is not correct because there's nowhere for us to go. There's no roads. And if there were to be, hypothetically, if there were to be a microburst that occurred, how do we get out? Where do we go? You have it blocked off with these semi trucks. It's right on that corner. I just would like for you to reconsider this proposal and really think it through for the community and take an actual picture that's a true depiction as to what is going on and how much the growth has occurred within Highland Woods. And I'm speaking not only for myself, but also for my neighbors who couldn't be here. I thank you for your time and your consideration.
All right, thank you. And next we have Chrisma. Or is that a Krista? That's a T? Okay, Krista. Wise path. Go ahead.
Are we able to pull up the PowerPoint? I just have a couple slides I'd like to leave with you. Okay, I can follow up with that. So thank you for letting me speak. My name is Krista Wisapapi, and I'm the president of Wildwood Valley HOA. I represent the neighborhood today, which is 38 homes, all opposing the petition to change the rezoning. In addition to the opposition from Wildwood West and from Highland Woods, there are numerous Facebook posts and pages, as well as Nextdoor apps, all opposing this petition. The petitioners of 4612, specifically those occupying the property, are not good stewards of the land. They said that they won't park trucks on permeable land, but they are. They said that trucks would not be idling on site, but they are. They said they would not play loud music into the evenings, but they are. And they said they're not dumping on the property, and we've already proven that they are. All things that were denied in the meeting on August 8th in front of the zoning committee. They stood up in front of the community and said, these things would never happen. But again, with proof, we know that they are happening. We see it and hear it every day. The expansion of the property will negatively impact our quality of life. While we have concerns over safety, we heard about people sleeping in their trucks on this site. But while we have concerns about safety, air and light pollution, our biggest concern is the impact that the rezoning will have on our water. Our neighborhoods and homes are on well and septics. If our water source is contaminated, our health and our property values are worth nothing. There is a large wetland on the property that you've heard about. I feel like we must make sure that this is protected. We must stand up and insist that illegal dumping on this site stop. What is going to happen with the runoff water? If it cannot go into the wetland and it cannot go into the railroad tracks, where's it going to go? If our water is contaminated with runoff of gas and oil and diesel, our well and our water is contaminated. How are we to put our trust in an organization and people that have already proven themselves not to be good neighbors? If this vote passes and the property is rezoned, this will be a grievous error. Should the decision be made to pass the rezone and allow for further development, we have a series of questions that our neighbors have posed to both the petitioners as well as the Kane County Developmental Board. That is part of my PowerPoint that I will make sure each of you get. I think we deserve some answers. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Now we want to hear from Jason. Oh, we already heard. I'm sorry. I got to go back to, we already heard from him. Carl. The petitioner.
Good morning, board. Can you hear me?
Move it up so that it's right in front of
There
you.
you go.
How's that? Is that better?
There you go.
All right, can we get the aerial for 2004 up on the board? I want to give you. I just want to make it real clear that we're working with property that has been zoned B3.
Yes, speak up just a little bit.
We've been working, I just want to make sure that everybody's aware that we've been working with property here that has been zoned B3 since, I guess, 1976. The area in question here, this area here that we're going to be developing was used as a dumping ground for Brady Brick and Illinois Brick. There's approximately 100,000 square feet of dumped brick and debris that needs to be cleaned up, which we are planning on doing. I do want to emphasize the fact that across the street, you have a body shop here. You have a parking area here that's been rezoned, and there are approximately 100 spaces. If anybody would drive by it there are semi trucks parked there already, campers, all sorts of vehicles, construction equipment as well, that can be clearly seen from Coombs Road here. This area here is pretty much manufacturing. There is a truck repair center here. There is a body shop in this location. There are, I would say, 50 to 100 cars in this area that are being worked on, and probably 5 or 6 transportation trucks coming here daily, dropping off cars, removing cars, lots of traffic. back here, there are probably a dozen semi trucks parked at this time that nobody's complaining about. I do have to say this, Custom Color Inc. has been here for 13 years and Team Prime has been here for over a year and a half without one violation, without one complaint. If there were any complaints or any violations in the past, they would have been addressed, but we've never heard from any neighbor stating that we have issues on that property in the last year and a half. And now that we want to expand the business, put 2 storage buildings on this would be the eastern northern part of the property that will not receive any traffic except for going to get parts and material that's needed to continue operation on this side. As you know, the railroad track's been there for a long time. Brady's Bricks operation has been here since the late 50s. These people, or this development here, built these homes knowing that Brady Brick was in business here. When Brady Brick was in business here, I did a little homework called Illinois Brick at this time. And at its peak, they had 15 to 20 semi trucks coming and going out of Brady Brick on a daily basis. This facility, Team Prime, is an extensive truck repair center. It is not a parking lot for trucks. It's a repair center. It's not a gas station. They have approximately 3 to 5 vehicles or trucks that come and go out of that property. We've been hearing a lot of complaints about the traffic coming down Coombs Road. The trucks that come out of Team Prime don't use Coombs Road because if they come down Coombs Road, they cannot make the turn onto Highland Avenue. So they've been instructed to come down Randall Road and come down Highland, which has minimal housing. The traffic that comes down Coombs Road is approximately 5,000 trucks and vehicles a day. I've been out there observing traffic the last few days just to see what everybody's talking about. Most of the noise that you hear on Coombs Road are these construction trucks with these straight pipes coming down from big timber that create the noise. The trucks that Team Prime services are mostly newer trucks. They're 2016 and newer. They are governed very well through the government in regards to pollution. They're not noisy. They're not the old trucks of yesterday. Everything is the new technology. So the level of noise is considerably less than the trucks that you would see coming up and down Coombs Road. So the trucks that come out of Prime don't affect this area here. Another thing I want to say is these homes that border the property here, this is all forest. The closest house, which would be approximately right here, is 250 feet of forest before you even get to the railroad tracks. So during most of the year, the vision is blocked by trees. This whole area here is covered by trees, and we've made provisions now that in the winter we had heard complaints that, well, the trees lose their leaves and so forth. Team Prime and Custom Color is willing to do whatever it needs to do within reason to shelter any view from the north. Like I said before, I want to emphasize the fact that this business has been here 13 years and a year and a half without one complaint. If somebody had come over and said, hey, we don't like this, or we don't like that, or if the county had come over and said, wait, you're doing something wrong, it would have been corrected. But this is the first time that we've heard any complaints of noise, of debris, of anything else. We have 2 businesses that are trying to expand. The whole area is zoned B3. We're not starting from farmland and moving to business. This is a B3 zoning, and it is going to be in this area here is zone B3. It's being utilized. It's a business that exists. All we're trying to do is expand. Like I said, there's a truck parking right across the street that nobody's even bothering to talk about. And that was just from what I can gather, recently had a special use. And I went out there and I looked, there's photos available. There's probably 50 or 60 trucks, campers parked out there that nobody's complaining about. And everybody's complaining about the parking in this area. The only time you see any activity here is if you're standing in front of the driveway. If you're anywhere in the area here or here or here, you don't even know they exist. So please keep that in mind. Like I said, this whole area is business. This gets a lot, this has been rezoned. This is all business. This is a body shop. We're not trying to do anything different that has existed for the last 13 years as well as the last year and a half. Any questions?
Any questions or comments? Hold on, ma'am. Hold on,
Point of
ma'am.
order, this is
Point of order.
public comment.
Go ahead.
No.
I have a question.
Go ahead, Williams.
This is Williams here. How many trips per day in traffic will your development generate?
You have to, people have to understand, this is not an oil change facility. This is not something where a truck pulls in and gets fixed and leaves. This is, if you toured the facility, these are trucks with major problems. They come from all over the country because this facility is able to fix things that other people in the area can't. So when a truck shows up, it's usually there anywhere from a week, sometime depending on the situation with parts. I've heard since COVID, and I know a lot of businesses are experiencing this, you can't get parts. So when a truck shows up and you say, wow, it's been sitting there for a long time. Well, it's sitting there because we can't get parts to repair it. Or the damage is so severe that it takes an extended period of time to fix the truck. Usually there are 3 on a high side, 3, sometimes none, 0 trucks show up. Other times there might be 3, other times there might be as high as 4 or 5 that show up in one day in regards to 2 may leave and 3 may show up. But it's not a truck parking. It's not a gas station. It's a facility where somebody brings their truck to get repaired. Now you got to keep in mind, these drivers that own these trucks want to get their trucks back, because if that truck is sitting idle, it's not making any money. So they want their trucks out of there as soon as possible. And that's what Team Prime does. They fix the truck, and as soon as it's done, it's out of there. The only reason they would be sitting there is if they can't get the parts for it, which I think goes across the board to a lot of businesses. As you know, since COVID, parts aren't available. And if it's something that's extensive and it can't get a part, that truck's going to sit there until that part shows up. And believe me, they want that truck out of there so they can service the next customer.
I've got some
ahead.
follow-up
Go
questions,
ahead.
if you don't mind. So let me ask this another way. Approximately how many trucks do you anticipate servicing in any given year?
I think in a given year, that's tough to say. For what I understand, they get 3 to 5 vehicles that come in and out of there on a daily basis. So I'm thinking on a 5-week work week, you're probably talking on a high side of 25 trucks coming and going out of that facility. So maybe I'm thinking maybe 100 trucks a month that come in and out of there, compared to the 5,000 or so trucks that come down Coombs Road a day. It seems to me it's insignificant. And again, I want to emphasize the fact that Coombs Road is not a road that the facility uses, because you can't make that turn. So the traffic that comes in there does come off Highland and Randall.
So are these trucks that have been in accidents?
No, well, the trailers, sometimes the truck will show up that's been in an accident, but it's not a body shop. It's a mechanical repair center. So somebody comes in, I've seen trucks that had been in an accident, might have a broken axle or whatever else like that, and get repaired, or a trailer that's been damaged.
So if someone's bringing in a truck that's damaged, it's possible that various fluids would come out from the vehicle, transmission fluid, oil, et cetera. What is your plan to contain those?
Team Prime has a specialty company. I think maybe I should introduce the owner of Team Prime to answer that question, because that's a little above my pay grade at this time.
And I guess I have a follow-up question for Jody, whether she's satisfied, whether the site is designed to contain liquids on site if there's a release. Rob, or sorry, Rob.
Yeah, no, that's fine. So the engineering plan that they would prepare as a result of going through this process, right? It would have to be designed such that the grading on the paved areas there, as you're seeing there highlighted in with the laser pointer, those would all have to be designed and graded so that the water does not sheet flow off into the stormwater basin. It would be collected, and again, through a what we call a water quality best management practice, a water quality BMP, where it's filtered before it goes into the detention basin. I can't speak as to the every place has to have like a spill containment plan, like an action plan, just much like a gas station or any other commercial type facility of what they would do if something happens. I will say this, when we were out there prior to the zoning meeting, we were looking around, looking underneath the vehicles to the extent that we can, and we didn't see any evidence of any leaking or dripping fluids or anything like that. And that was something obviously we were trying to pay attention to, but they would have to have a plan in place, if something were dripping or whatever, to be able to whether it's the oil absorbent booms or pads, the oil dry, things like that. And then so that's cleaned up prior to there being any kind of rainfall event. But again, under the proposed design, that any kind of residual would have to go through a treatment device before it would go into the detention basin.
So as of right now, they do not have this treatment device on there. It would have to be a part of, because it wasn't required at the time. It was.
Yeah, that's correct. There is not right now. Right now, everything sheet flows to the north to the detention basin, which is at the north end.
Okay, so right now, as it stands, because it wasn't required, if there's any issues, it's happening as we speak then.
Yeah, that's correct. If there were something occurring, it would be sheet flowing off into the detention basin.
All right.
Or Caius, or it's not concrete, right? It's pervious, is it
No.
gravel?
It's concrete.
Well, there's gravel. There's some
That whole
concrete.
Parking area looks like it's gravel to me on the overhead.
Yeah, that's correct. It's not all concrete. There's concrete in front of the building, but then there's a gravel parking area currently along the eastern edge. And again, as has been pointed out, where you see the vehicle or the trailers there, that area there is not, or to the right of where the laser pointer is, that area is not currently paved.
Is not paved. It's all gravel right up to the,
Currently, correct.
most of that area is, from what I can see on the overhead here, most of it's pervious right now. So if they continued business as is without changing anything, then that would,
There would be no containment for any fluids or anything.
Tepe?
Tepe here. How many trucks do you plan on storing on this facility at one time?
This is Ian, he's the owner of Team Prime. Maybe you can answer those questions a little bit better.
Hello, my name is Ian. I want to answer your question first. So most of the trucks that come to our facility, they already have been involved into a crash. So you're not gonna see on the road any sort of like fluids, oils, trails, and anything like that. So when the trucks are getting towed to our facility, they're towed inside the shop. Inside the shop, we have concrete and all the mitigation systems and system in place to collect all sort of fluids, coolant, when we're doing changes of all sorts. So the trucks that come our way, they're not gonna have any sort of running fluid, let's put it that way, because they've been involved in a major crash. Those are gonna be somewhere on the road. Other companies taking care of this cleanup is gonna happen previous to our facility.
so they're
But
being,
inside the shop, we have all specialized retainers, and we have companies that come and collect all the waste oils and fluids regularly. So there's nothing going anywhere. So that was an answer to your question, because yeah, it was super valid question, but that's how it goes. When they have busted like radiator leaking already, it's happened at the crash site. So not here. Okay.
All right. Tepe?
He was asking
Okay.
something.
How many trucks at one time do you anticipate being parked on that property?
So as of right now, we're like at full capacity per se. When the board members came in to visit, we have about 30 to 40% same trailers at the site. We can show that through the pictures and stuff like that. We're just waiting on parts availabilities. We have small pieces of aluminum or axles or brakes, or I'm not gonna go into, being engineering about it because there's no point, but we're waiting a long time on parts, and we're using other trucks to take parts from and make other trucks drivable. So it's a big, big game. It's a big, big puzzle that we have to struggle through and with to make everything happening. Like what Carl said, what we want is to get a truck repaired out. That's how we get paid. That's how our families get paid. What the customer wants the same thing. So to be honest with you, it's really complicated for me to be able to give you an answer. We have trucks, sometimes they're going like 5, 6 trucks a day out, 1 truck in. We can fix them faster. We can fix them based on availability of parts. So I don't have an exact answer to give you in that matter.
Would it surprise you to know that there are at least 30 vehicles parked on that property right now?
Oh, no, I'm there almost every day.
Okay,
They are there. We know for what are there, every single one of them. We know
So-
what parts are waiting for.
so
every
if
individual
you
unit.
increase the business, you're going to have even more.
I'm gonna have even more inside the building. So this is something that I really want to emphasize, right? Right now I have trucks outside waiting on parts, waiting on the staging area. Everybody's calling it parking and scrapyard, and I have no personal, but what I want to do is to have these big projects inside the shop, not outside of the shop. That's why I want the building and the other building over there. The trucks and the trailers are gonna be inside, not being outside, eyesore. I'm learning words every day and all that kind of stuff.
Well, part of what concerns me is of those 30 trucks, I would say about half of them are either partially or completely on non-permeable ground. So that's not something that, is good for me. And it bothers me that you're not really giving good stewardship to the land associated with that. So I have concerns about that. Next is there any idling of these vehicles overnight in particular?
Vehicles are not required to idle every night. We don't do that. Like sometimes we might have a reefer or some APU, auxiliary power unit, it's called, that is attached to the frame of the truck. It's not the 15-liter engine, is the 1.6-liter engine 3-cylinder that is running. And it's all EPA approved, the smart idle and all that kind of stuff. Sometimes we have these mitigation systems for, batteries and all.
So it's not at all uncommon for some kind of a machine to be running overnight because you have a refrigerated vehicle there?
It's not very common. It might happen at one point where we have, let's say, a truck that came with a major harness issue and came with a reefer into. So the reefer might have some from product that is gonna go to shelves next day and it's gonna be running over there. But it's a small motor. It's not like an excavator or a bulldozer.
But you do understand that that is noise all day long.
Yes.
Okay.
but, It's
So
not noise that would be like, it's not like something that we do on every day basis. It happens and it's out of our control. It's not something that we do, let's run this kind of truck. I understand what you're saying. Don't get me wrong.
It is under your control, sir. So,
Okay, hold on for a second. We get there's gonna be truck noise and things like that, so I don't wanna go back and
truck
forth.
noise overnight, every night. Okay, is anybody sleeping in these cabs? Are people using this for, drivers coming there and they've got to stay there? Are they sleeping and living in these cabs overnight? Because that's what they do.
It might happen, yes. So we will have a truck that is ready tomorrow morning.
Hey, point of order, let them answer the question. Everyone had a chance to talk. Go ahead.
Okay, so we have a truck that is gonna be ready tomorrow morning. Whatever trucking company is gonna send a driver in, is getting ready in the truck, in the morning is out. Like if somebody's gonna stay out of our facility, again, right across the street, you're gonna see trucks leaving in the morning, trucks coming whenever they break. It's not something uncommon, you know, like the trucks are driven by people. People have to be by the trucks. The trucks make noise when they start them. The trucks make noise when you run the engine, but it's not making, like I said, I have so much information coming in my ears right now. Like people are making researches on me. You know, yeah, I'm a successful entrepreneur. So what? I have a lot of businesses. So what is that a big concern of our neighbors there? You know, I work hard, play hard. This country is made for that. So why is everybody bothered by my success? You know, I understand all these, like I have trucking companies, I have repair facilities. I bought a farm, 50 acres over there on the west. I put the trucks over there for a simple reason that it's my land. I didn't know that my land has to be used by somebody else or under different manner. And then I learned that last time. And after I learned that, I took the trucks out of there right away. Right? So I didn't know a lot of things. I'm in the United States for 8 years. So I have a lot of things that I have to process and deal with all these people making presentations and stuff like that. I didn't know about the music because nobody complained. So again, it's we're gonna mitigate. We have everything that we need to, you know, to repair all this stuff, and I'm gonna answer all the questions, but I want everybody to, you know, be aware of that. We're here not to damage anybody. We're here for the community. That's why me and my family, we're gonna move on the farm over there. We already start making the house nice. I like green. I came from the mountains. I like all this kind of stuff. So when I hear people, oh yeah, you're gonna put oil in the ground, my well and septic is gonna be over there. So what, for me, there's a lot of things that they don't really touch.
All right. So with this project, just so everybody understands, is that you're talking about having more of a concrete area where you're gonna be working on the trucks. It's gonna be indoors.
Indoors.
The detention pond or retention pond will be built properly so that it meets our standards to date. And then access, it looks like doesn't really change. And all the concerns with the oil and contamination, now they'd be required to do that, which they're not being required to do as of now. Did I get anything wrong? Did I get it?
Yeah, no, I think from a water resource perspective, that's correct. So they would be required to meet all aspects of the stormwater ordinance as any other site of a similar use would be
Right,
required.
which doesn't exist now.
And correct, yeah, that's not happening right now.
Any other questions or comments?
2 follow-up questions, if I may.
Not from the audience, gonna be from audience. You had your chance to speak.
Williams,
Go ahead, Williams.
thank you. How many employees do you have now and how many do you anticipate having if this is approved?
We are a total 11 right now at the shop.
Do you plan on increasing those if this expansion is approved?
Not planning anything as of right now. But I like quality over quantity. So that's the thing that I really like. So I don't have any plans on expansion as of right now. We might, but
Your employees are mechanics?
all of them, yes.
What certifications do they carry?
They have they can, I don't know, like rephrase the question.
What kind of education do they have?
Oh, yeah. So I finished my master's degree in mechanics. My how you call it? My shop foreman, he finished master's in mechanics. All of them finished universities in mechanics. They have long experience with semi trucks, with cars, with trucks from Europe, from United States, from all over the place. So yeah.
What is your anticipated investment in this property should it be approved? How many dollars? How much?
I want to make this a state-of-art, small, fix everything facility. So money-wise, it's changing every day, the amount. So I don't really have a limit on saying 1 million, 5 million, 10 million. But money is not something that scares me a lot because with hard work, you can make it. So as long as we can make something like a nice oasis for this type of business, and we like this type of business, I like it. I like logistics. I know mechanics. So it doesn't matter what amount of money we're going to spend to make it nice, we will.
So some of the requests I've heard or have read rather were that the building that you're proposing to construct be masonry. Would you have any objection to constructing a masonry building?
Oh, yeah, I saw those comments over there. It was the first time I saw it. Masonry building on like a fake siding, or what is the point of?
Well, I think it's
doing
called
so?
a veneer, a masonry veneered building so that it looks like a brick building or stone.
Oh, for aesthetics.
Yes.
Oh, yeah, we can do that if it's
Hi.
required. Within
Anything
reason,
going
yeah.
on?
I mean, like, if somebody likes to see brick, we can definitely do that. Like, I'm,
Okay.
Someone else had a question. Go ahead, Chris.
Just back on the violations, I know, just to put it in perspective, I think the violations of code have been not followed up because we haven't had personnel. Finally, we're adding our personnel. Have there been any recent violations or any reports of violations? And have you looked it over, John, for any violations of?
I'll let Mark answer that.
Sure. So, yeah, John and Colin, some of our new property code enforcement team assisted us after the public brought forth complaints and submitted evidence of concerns of truck parking and equipment in the areas of brush, natural areas. We did a follow-up site visit, which included the local fire district, included KDOT, water resources, and then our property code enforcement team. And we did document the conditions on that date. And then we did a follow-up inspection, both of this site and the Farmstead site to the west to confirm what those conditions were prior to the second zoning board hearing. I do have a presentation with those slides if the committee wants to see those.
I would be interested.
So Blair, could you put that up? And to answer your other question, we had not received complaints on either property prior to the zoning petition. That's not uncommon that when a zoning petition gets filed, that folks, take a look and then make us aware of conditions that may be violations, but nobody complained about before. So it's not uncommon. And so we made them aware of what those items were. So this is from the inspection that we made on July 25th, which included the multi-departments that I mentioned. I'll go quickly, but the photos generally go around counterclockwise on the site. And then on the right-hand side is the photo on the 25th. And then Colin and John followed up on August 8th to take updated photos of those. So of concern up front here, they had some containers that were stacked or parked, as well as a piece of equipment stacked on top. You can see it kind of in the picture there. And there's the photo on the 8th. Likewise, here again, here's a photo of that container, which by the August 8th that had been removed. And I'll just kind of go quickly, but you'll get a sense for, what that aerial photo, kind of look like. They're not the same date, but it kind of gives you an idea where on the property. And there you see again.
Were those violations? Or
No, these are not violations. These are equipment that's stored. They are working to take care of some of the pallets were still there. They look like they restacked tires that were from another location. So we did do a count also of the of semi truck. In this case, it actually I think it means the cab of the truck, box trucks, and then trailers, meaning the trailer that's hauled behind the cab. The numbers on the 25th, and they did a recount on August 8th. The main change in passenger vehicles was the date of July 25th. They had given all their employees the day off so that there wasn't a lot of commotion during our activity. Which probably explains the change in the number of personal vehicles. on there. And then these are some photos that were taken recently at the Farmstead site that a number of people referred to. You can see in the aerial photo that the truck parking does show up in front of the farmhouses over here. These are some farm structures, and it has a U-shaped driveway. Trucks that were parked in the grass area in that loop. And we made them aware that those could not be parked there. Those were relocated, and those are the photos taken on August 8th. And these are just different angles. You will note some of the currently the printing equipment that may have been in the building and was relocated out of the building to make room for the trucking business may have been relocated to the site, and some of that still is there, and that would need to be removed. That would be continue to be a violation. Thank you. And those are the slides that we presented to the zoning board at the time of their public hearing before their vote and recommendation.
All right, any other questions or comments? I do want to make note that I received an email from board member Young, who says he had received several individual opposing this calls. And also that it seems like the main complaint from those calls were about increasing traffic. He is against this project as of the time that he sent this email, which was last night. I just want to make a note of it, so it's in our minutes. And then Ms. Darty, you have a
yeah. I just don't understand the wording, and maybe I'm just reading wrong. On page 39, it says, I'm sorry, 65. It says objectors, area property owners with the additional requested stipulations. So they object unless the stipulations are met, or are they still object after the stipulations are met?
This is Mark Van Kerkhoff. My understanding is that they continue to object, but if the county board were going to approve this petition, they would like to see those additional stipulations, is my understanding.
And then the rejection is rescinded?
I do not believe that. I do not believe.
This wasn't written up clearly, so I'm just trying to understand.
Yeah, my apologies, Mark Van Kerkhoff again. My understanding is that they still object regardless. But if the county board were going to approve it, these were conditions that they would like to see added. But I don't believe that adding those conditions would offset their objection, that they would continue to object, is my understanding.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions or comments?
Mr. Chair,
Chris?
this is Caius again. Just in a comparison, so what we're asking for today is a change in the zoning, but if we didn't approve that, they could stay there and continue their business. Is that correct?
So it currently is zone B3. So yeah, the uses that are there that have been established by Custom Color in the construction of his new building and the establishment of use for the truck repair business, which was also applied for and approved, would most likely be permitted to continue as is. What they would not be able to do is expand and make the improvements that they're proposing without the covenant being approved and the special use being added to the existing B3. And the special use gives the county more oversight and control over the development of the property than we would without it.
The last sentence there is the important part, is if they stay, they can do whatever they were doing now to start, if we change it, then we have more oversight in what they're about to do.
That's correct.
So it's almost like it's like a catch-22.
Yep.
If we allow more of what they're doing, then we can control it better, but it's still going to be more of it.
That's correct.
No, we're not gonna respond to comments right now from the public. You had your chance to speak. Let us get to our point what's gonna happen here now. Thank you.
I think that was it, other than I would say that I don't know that as a board or as residents here, we aren't opposed to anyone's success. I think what we're looking at is that this particular place, is it suitable for this particular location?
Any other questions or comments from the staff? I mean, from our board, our committee members? All right, seeing none, I believe we're ready to call the vote.
Berman,
Berman, yes.
Doherty. Mr. Doherty,
Sorry, Doctor. Yeah, come back to me.
Kenyon,
No.
Linder. Mr. Linder. Oh, looks like he left. Davis. He's gone. Caius,
Must be a tough vote. I'm voting. I'm going to vote no.
Williams,
It's a reluctant yes.
Ford.
I'm gonna say reluctant yes too.
All right, let's see, we have
Yeah, back to Doherty. Yeah, yes, I like Mr. Caius's point. I'm gonna say yes.
all right.
You like my
And
point?
it passes with 4 yeses and 2 nos.
All right, thank you.
And for clarification, this is a recommendation of the County Development Committee that will go
Yes.
with the petition. The full county board will vote on it at their September meeting at 9:45.
Can we get that date now? So that,
September 12th
September 12th
at 9:45. And persons
9:45.
wishing to address the county board in this matter do need to sign up to speak in advance through the county's website.
Mr. Chairman, Shepro, question.
Go ahead.
Yeah, my understanding is that this vote is both a vote to approve the petition and that includes a release of the covenant. Is that correct?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, moving on. We have our Property Code Enforcement Division monthly report.
Hey, John Mull, Property Code Enforcement Officer. We prepared a monthly report. It's attached in your packet. This past month, we had 21 new cases. We resolved 28 cases, leaving us with 50 that we're still working on from last month. 3 cases went to adjudication, and since we've started the division in March, we've surpassed 200 new cases. Last month, Colin, my code enforcement inspector, and I went to a 8-hour code enforcement class up in Elgin, very worthwhile. And we have a new hire, Brittany Garcia, out here. She's our new property code enforcement administrative assistant. It's fitting in nicely.
Stand up,
Mm.
And
please. I can't.
Brittany,
Right, okay.
she's fitting in very nicely, and she's bilingual, which will make it more efficient, more effective to communicate with some of our residents and resolve concerns. That's all for this month. Any questions?
Good job.
Okay, seeing none, we're moving on to our planning and special projects monthly report.
Yes, Mark Van Kerkhoff again, and I just want to again say we're very pleased to have John and Colin on board, and now to have Brittany join us. She's not only been a help with the code enforcement with her bilingual abilities, but with a number of customers come in for zoning, special events, and building permits. So she's been a great addition to our team so far. So with that, you also have your planning and special projects monthly report. Most of these activities are reported to other committees. I do want to highlight that as we speak, we have a special farm tour being conducted by Janice Hill and Matt Tansley in conjunction with Chicago Wilderness Agriculture Committee. And I hope to be joining them yet later this afternoon. Also want to, related to the 2024 budget, which I expect to be part of a presentation at next month's meeting. But there's a bit of a change in the policy and how they're handling the budget this year, where positions that exist that were vacated in 2023 or 2022, but had not been filled by July of this year, are not just automatically part of our budget proposal for staffing salaries, but need to be re-requested as a special request. So we had 2 positions vacated last year, one due to retirement, one due to moving to work for one of our municipalities. We've been working with HR to make some revisions to those job descriptions to meet our current needs, particularly with the large amount of grants that we're managing through our planning team. So unfortunately, those hires weren't remade before July. So I'll be proposing those as positions in I guess what they're calling the supplemental budget. There won't be much change in the overall amount for salaries from this budget year to next budget year, but because of the new policy, they'll be separated out as a special request. So just want to give you a heads up on that and happy to answer any questions. Kind of a new procedure for us. So thank you.
Any questions or comments? Seeing none, we moving on to our subdivisions.
I can still say good morning.
Barely.
Only
Good morning.
Hurry.
6 minutes. I'll talk fast. Before you have a preliminary plat and preliminary engineering. We're bringing this in front of you today so that we can get your approval, so we can continue on the process of going through the subdivision ordinance and developing the site. We're over in the area of St. Charles area. It's between Crane Road and Burr Hill Road, and we're south of Bolcom. This particular site is known as the Precious Moments site for those that have been around the county for a while here. There is approximately 18 acres here that they wish to develop into 6 single-family homes.
And this site right now has one access to it, or is it 2?
Correct.
One access to the
Claire,
west.
Can you help me out? I can't seem to forward here.
Which way is north on that?
North is up.
Thought Crane was east and west.
There we go. A little bit of a closer look here at what's going on. Woodgate, this is proposed as Woodgate subdivision. To the east over here, we have Maple subdivision. All the remaining properties around this are unincorporated. When Maples came in back in the early 70s to the early 80s, they did provide one stub road to this particular development over here. At that point in time, this was developed into a private roadway, which then serviced this one house up here, and it teed off and services 2 houses over in this area. There's also a 4th house that's down here at the bottom. So KDOT and our subdivision ordinance, they prefer not to have too many houses on a private road. KDOT has a maximum of 4. So at this point in time, no further development could occur in that area. Now, because of the uniqueness of this property, it's got some very unusual restrictions on it. We only have one access point into it. As you can see, Fearson Creek is over here to the west. So between the floodplain and the wetland that's over in that area, there'll be no further development towards that area. We have the individual homeowner down here who actually owns all this parcel down here. So he intends on doing no further development. We have this former Precious Moments residence here. However, this is Forest Preserve, which continues north and loops over to the west. Thereby, it's basically cut off this parcel. So we've got some pretty good restrictions on here. And knowing that we had these restrictions on here, there's a few unique items that are going to be asked of the board in order to approve this subdivision. One of them is, as the parcel comes in, this is now flipped to the side, so north is to your right-hand side on this exhibit. As you would enter the parcel here, we're coming into basically a L-shaped intersection. And normally when a street dead ends, it forms a T so that fire and township can easily access the site and turn around and do the maneuvers that they need to do with their heavy equipment. KDOT was granted, it was gracious and allowed us to use our conference room. So KDOT met with the township as well as the fire department, as well as the owner, the engineer and subdivision. And we came to the conclusion that there was no point in extending roadways to go north or west of this particular site simply because of the constraints on this property, that there be no further development in those areas. So to the north, they will install a private roadway easement for the Precious Moments house that's to the north area. The two residents that are currently to the west, we will go ahead and put a roadway easement in this area for a future roadway in the event that somebody wants to build a bridge over Fearson Creek and continue with development. But given the prohibitive cost of that, we don't foresee that happening. So this is a preliminary plat of the engineering that we have this time. There were the 6 lots here. There is a 66-foot wide NIGAS easement all the way along the easterly edge of this parcel before you get to the Maple subdivision. So we've got some depressional storage here they're maintaining. They're adding a detention pond, which goes into a further pond that eventually gets into the creek. So the technical staff found that the application has been submitted, that preliminary staff meetings were held, and the owner has addressed all comments to date. The staff would like to begin the 45-day notification of adjacent neighbors and residences and move on into preliminary engineering. So we would recommend your approval of the preliminary plat in subdivision.
Williams makes a motion to approve.
All right, do I have a
Second.
have motion and second? I have one question. If you go back to go back to the plat.
Oh, the plat?
Yeah, the subdivision divide, yeah, they're right there. So the fire department have met and they're clear with this?
Yes,
Okay.
they are.
All right.
The township, to be honest with you, would prefer this remain a private road simply because they didn't have to do maintenance, which I understand. However, it becomes an issue of safety. So unfortunately, the township will have to incur the ownership of the road here, at least up to this point. And the engineer worked with the fire department. They came up with a configuration there that the fire department is satisfied with. They also extend on the plan, they will also widen the radiuses that are in this L shape here, which will allow the township, when they clear snow, to have an area in which to push the snow into, because that's another problem that the township has on these T-type endings.
Yes. All right. Any other questions or comments?
So to the right of that, which is north, is
correct.
That's all private drive,
Yes.
halfway through there where the L is at.
Correct. Yes, that will
And-
be a private easement.
And there's only one access to that. Only like for fire and police.
Correct.
Emergency
Correct.
to the south end. And you said they were okay with that because isn't that something that we typically require if it's, did you say how many houses?
There will be 6 houses and it currently with the subdivision plat, there will be a total of 1, 2, 3, 4, 10 houses that will be serviced off of this section of public roadway.
So if something happens on the way in there, then there's 10 houses up there that have
With
no
the single access point. There always is that possibility. The Kane County, our subdivision ordinance, as well as KDOT, we have a 500-foot limitation to like a cul-de-sac. Given the parameters of this particular site and the restrictions, there's nowhere else for them to connect onto. So we're asking for a variance for that 500-foot limitation for the cul-de-sac. Because this will exceed that almost twice as long.
And what size lots are these? Like,
This is an E2 zoning, so these are, I believe, a minimum 2 to 2.5 acre lots.
all right. Any other questions or comments? All right, seeing none. And we don't vote on this, right? Or do we?
We,
We do?
I would
Pass it on.
ask for your approval to move forward into the next stage of subdivision.
All right, no other questions?
Motion a second.
Yes, we
Which
already
one?
had the motion a second.
move it ahead would be the next, repeat that one more time for what would.
To move into the next stage of subdivision,
Which
which
is?
would be to notify surrounding neighbors, all the other jurisdictions, although I think we had them all at the table at that meeting, as well as go ahead and begin with engineering plans finalize the engineering plans, get their stormwater permit, things of that sort.
Long ways to go.
And that once, I'm sorry for all the questions. The slide that you showed, was that like the floodplain on the north end? That's on private ground up there, is it? So it's not gonna be there.
Yeah, all the red shading that you see, that's known floodplain, and that area has been studied. In this particular instance, the red shading is fairly correct to the contours of the site. So all that area going north, it won't be developed simply because it's floodplain, as well as the forest preserve. You see a little section of it there in the green. It actually continues north for a bit and then it comes over west. So it totally cuts off any further development to the north.
And that's First Creek.
Yes.
All right. Ready for a vote?
Berman,
Yes.
Doherty,
Oh, yes.
Kenyon,
Yes.
Lenders. Caius,
Yes.
Williams,
Yes.
Ford.
Ford, yes.
Passes.
All right, moving on. We have our environmental resources.
We don't have anything under environmental resources or water resources this month.
All right, so. All right. Office of Community Reinvestment. I don't see nobody online. All right, we have one resolution on a new business.
Berman moves resolution. to
Williams
change the name.
seconds.
All right. And this is changing the name of part of Bliss Road to Old Bliss Road.
Yes, and Kurt Knight is here with KDOT also, but this is a crossover aspect of this project where KDOT has for a long time been planning and now constructing the realignment of Bliss Road. Under the county's code, the authority for renaming roads falls under the County Development Committee. So KDOT has requested a road name change. We haven't done this since Stearns Road.
Finally, we're doing something
corridor.
substantive. We're gonna change the name of a
Will we
road.
make it fast, Kenyon?
Yes, so anyway, this resolution just changes a portion of the of Bliss Road, which will be cut off from access to Main Street. You can see here, this whole stretch will be renamed to Old Bliss Road. And then the new section officially, that right of way section named Bliss Road. So with that, we just ask that you pass this resolution on to the full board.
All right,
Who
Mr.
wants to
King.
change the name? You or? who's your
We
idea?
could call it Old Kenyon Road if you'd like.
Who wants to change the name?
This was a request, this is before your committee at the request of KDOT.
all right.
You guys?
We have a motion and a second, I believe, right?
Yes.
All the
All right.
questions.
Any questions or comments?
Wow.
Seeing none.
Oblus.
Nice name for a movie.
You have
Roll
it
call,
listed
please.
as no cost. Isn't that just,
Berman,
Berman, yes.
Doherty,
yeah, what I said was, you have it listed as no cost. Isn't there gonna be a cost in changing sign names and everything? Mark,
There will be some minimal costs associated with the signage changes.
Just a
Yes.
couple
But
$1,000.
those are being borne by the overall KDOT project.
Okay, yes.
Kenyon,
Oh, yes. Yeah, this is great.
Reyes,
Yes.
Williams,
Yes.
Ford.
Ford, yes.
Passes.
All right. Can I get a motion unanimous replace reports on file?
Guys would, oh,
Go ahead. I defer to the elder statesman.
All right. Any
Let's-
objections? Seeing none. We don't have any reason for executive session.
Oh, God.
We done with public comments. Mr. Kenyon.
I'd like us to adjourn. Well, we're after 12. You're just
Second.
like Sturgis now.
was that a
Trying
motion?
my best.
Dragging this out?
Motion to adjourn.